is awesome.
I mean,
yes.
folks, this radio broadcast reaches around the world as well as all over the United States of America, and lives are being changed. But, folks, we need your help right now. Right now, because, folks, people are hurting financially. The inflation has killed folks. There are a lot of people who just can't give, Si. They just can't. They'll even tell us, I'd love to give, man, but I'm barely putting food on the table. So, folks, right now at 888-291-8000, we need you to call right from the start. Don't wait. Don't let my heart rate go through the roof here. We've got a $20,000 match right now. So we need you to get on the phones right now at 888-291-8000. Give the biggest gift you can. And I know there are some folks you haven't given yet, but guess what? We've got a $20,000 match, folks. That means every dollar you give, that $10,000 you're going to give becomes $20,000. That $5,000 becomes $10,000. That $100 becomes $200. That $20 becomes $40. Right now, at 888-291-8000, go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com or text Catholic to 24365. But once again, because of our awesome donors, we've got a way for you to have your money tripled. That is for those of you who will be a first time, am I right?
First time, no, any new monthly pledge
will be
even if they double,
even if they up their monthly pledge.
Yeah, say you're getting 18 now and you make it 25, everything that got added on will be matched
effectively
again.
Tripled,
yeah,
right? Because you're getting doubled
twice
with the 20,000, and then it's going to be matched again. Folks, did you hear what I just said? Right? If you call right now and give $25 a month, that $25 a month becomes just like that, $900. Folks, pick up the phone, 888-291-8000. That $100 a month gift becomes $3,600. My goodness, folks. And we really do need your help. As I said, we only do this once a quarter. Folks, we bring the gospel to you guys. You know us. You're going to hear the Catholic truth right here at Catholic Answers. That's all we give. And if we give opinions, we'll tell you this is just my opinion. But we are all about Catholic Answers here in a time where our culture, our church, people in the church, outside of the church, desperately need the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Please call now, 888-291-8000. Go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com or text Catholic to 24365. And folks, we've got 12 open lines right now. We can't wait until later in the broadcast. You got to pick it up now. 888-291-8000.
I'm going to give the other number again, and I wonder if I'm hoping those phones are working because I don't have any calls, which usually doesn't happen. So maybe people decided they'll call the pledge line and they'll wait to ask their question a little bit. But if you've got a question, a perfect time, because I'm ready to go to the phones, and I need some folks on the phones. 888-318-7884 is the number to call if you've got a question for Tim. 888-318-7884, because the way we do this is we only come to you, as Tim and I both just said, once every quarter to be fully funded. And we only use part of the hour when we come to you for the 6 hours that we'll come to you this week asking for your support. We'll only use part of each hour. So we do need folks on the lines asking their questions because we're gonna get you as many answers as we can over the course of the hour. 888-318-7884 is the number to call and ask a question. Maybe you are a Catholic person with a question about your faith, or maybe you are not a Catholic and you have questions about why Catholics believe this or that, or why Catholics do this or that. You want to have that discussion? You're very welcome here. We love those discussions. You are not taking up anybody's time. You're helping us out when you call because you make the show interesting. 888-318-7884. Right now, 14 of our colleagues are ready to take your calls. We're just starting off our summer pledge drive. We come to you once each season, to ask you for your support. Let me give that number and the online address that you can go to, and then I will go to the phones because calls are beginning to come in. The number to call call if you're ready to make your pledge. 888-291-8000. 2 matches on right now. A $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match for
That
the
is
hour.
awesome.
And then a second match for anybody who will start a new monthly pledge in any amount. That means you get tripled if you're starting a
So
new
that
monthly
means,
pledge.
I just wanted to be clear on this, and I think you gave me the green light here, Cy Kellett, that if you're now giving $25 a month, if you up that to
Whatever the
50, let's
addition.
say,
Yeah.
whatever the addition
That's a new monthly pledge.
gets tripled, folks. So maybe, folks, there some of you that are giving $25 right now, you can up it to $50 a month, or you can up it to $30 a month. Well, that extra $5 is going to be tripled. So, folks, please, we've got open lines right now. We cannot have open lines, okay? Call us at 888-291-8000. And if you can't get through, try again. But remember, you can text Catholic to 24365, and there's no waiting. You can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, and there's no waiting.
Let's do our regular job now. We'll make Tim answer some questions. We'll go to Cindy in Rochester, New York, listening on the Station of the Cross. Cindy, thank you for being here. Go ahead with your question for Tim.
Hi, I'm hoping that I'm misunderstanding some of
Yes.
the stuff that I hear on the radio, but about this Pope not being a good Pope,
Yes,
almost like a anti-Christ,
right.
and really kind of putting him down.
Yes.
So you're okay. You're just looking for some reassurance on that regard, Cindy?
Right. Well, Cindy.
Reassurance, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think
Okay.
a lot of the stuff he's done is like good, and it
Yeah.
makes me nervous when I hear people talking
Sure.
like that.
When you hear people call the Pope the Antichrist, that makes you nervous?
Yeah.
Cindy, what's up with you? All right, let's get an answer from Tim for you.
Well, Cindy, you're talking to somebody who was raised on the Pope is the Antichrist. So it's nothing new with me because I used to preach it when I was Protestant. But yes, it is disturbing when you have people calling themselves Catholic. That, oh my goodness. And Cindy, right now, it's incredible. We've talked about kind of jokingly the Trump derangement syndrome, Cy, where this man could cure cancer and it would somehow be called evil. Those who are just absolute haters. Okay. Well, we have something similar, Cindy, with Pope Francis, and I call it the Francis derangement syndrome. It's amazing because I happen to read every magisterial document this man writes, and I absolutely love them. But he'll say something that can possibly be twisted in a negative direction, and you have certain people that will attack and just, oh my goodness. And it's an amazing thing. And it goes back a while, Cindy, to some things that Pope Francis taught that some folks don't like. And man, it's just been... So what I do, Cindy, is I ask, and in fact, just yesterday I was talking with some wonderful brothers and sisters in Christ, good Catholics, and I said, okay, so what is this that you believe the Pope has taught that is so evil? And they either can't come... I, in fact, have to help them. Okay, do you think maybe it's this? Have you read Amoris Laetitia? Have you read the documents in question? And I will tell you, Cindy, I've read them all. And our Holy Father has done some incredible things. In many ways, he is prophetic. He's bringing the gospel to the poor. He is doing so much good, as you said, Cindy. So you know what you do? Take it with a grain of salt. And I always say, okay, let's talk about specifics, right? Maybe it's an interview. They have interviews where the Pope is so taken out of context. In fact, I saw one recently, Cindy, where they took part of what he was saying in this interview and then took another part and put them together in order to make him say something that he didn't say, Cy Kellett. I'm going, Cindy, right? So if you read our Holy Father's magisterial documents, it's like I just said to Cy at the start. I'm so looking forward to his apostolic exhortation that most likely will come out of this synod on synodality that's happening in September and October. Because, Cindy, there are a lot of folks who are saying, just like they said back with the Amazonian Synod on the family, I heard them say it with my own ears. They said, well, he's going to ordain deacons. He's going to give the green light. Do you remember that, Si?
But
He's gonna
ordained married men, I think, was the...
Well, married men, that was true, but there was a very popular fellow who I won't name who also said that it'll be ordaining deacons or deaconesses.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Deaconesses, and then that'll be the first step toward ordaining women. And of course, none of that happened, including ordaining married men, which we already do in the church in limited circumstances. It was so odd. But of course, what happened after the Synod, Sandy? Pope Francis changed canon law and made it automatic excommunication for anyone any bishop who attempts to ordain a woman as a deaconess, and for the woman who attempts to be ordained. They are both automatically excommunicated. That sounds to me like he wasn't ordaining deacons. Does that make sense? See, Cindy, this is what happens over and over. But what I noticed is those same people who were predicting he was going to allow the ordination of women to the diaconate, which, by the way, is not going to happen, folks. Oh, I'm prophesying. But see, I have 2,000 years of tradition behind me, so I can safely say this. But Cindy, what you don't hear are these people apologizing afterward and saying, praise God for Pope Francis, look what he's done. Because again, if you read the man's magisterial documents, they are absolutely awesome, orthodox. We have a lot of work to do because we have folks that are crazy on the left, quote unquote, and on the right. Everybody seems to be attacking the Pope. But you know what, Cindy? As I travel this country and I travel the world, there is an overwhelming majority of Catholics who love Jesus and his vicar and are faithful to both. Does that make sense, Cindy?
Well, I think I got Cindy on hold. Does that make sense to you, Cindy?
It does.
All
and
right.
I think can I just add
Sure.
one other thing?
Real quick.
That as far as with the Pope, I mean, everything is not infallibly spoken.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
Well, that
Yes,
gets-
Cindy,
you
that's
know
a
what I
very
mean?
important point, because I'll say what the Pope says at 35,000 feet in an airplane in an interview is not strictly binding on all Catholics. We listen, we respectfully listen like we would to a bishop or of course, to the Pope. But you're right. You know, popes misspeak. It happened with Pope John Paul, Pope Benedict, and that's a very important point. That's why I say to folks, read his magisterial documents, the magisterial teachings of the Pope, because that is what is binding on Catholics. Either, if it's infallible, of course, we must give the assent of divine and Catholic faith. If it's not, we have to give religious assent of the intellect and will. That is what binds all Catholics, different levels to be sure, and that's where you will find our one holy Catholic and apostolic faith. And I'll tell you what, it's very important right now that we support ministries like right here at Catholic Answers, and you can call right now and support us at 888-291-8000, because people need to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. Cindy, I'm having people email me and say, I've heard the Pope is going to allow homosexual marriage, or the Pope is going to normalize. One very popular Catholic said, he's going to normalize homosexual relations. And my head blows up. I'm going, what? Have you read anything? Read Amoris Laetitia, section 251. This is the Pope's magisterial teaching, where he makes clear that homosexual acts are always, there's no exceptions. In fact, he just recently, a couple of days ago, said any sexual act outside of marriage is a sin, right? Any sexual act. Sorry, Cardinal Hollerich. And you know, folks, there are some folks in high places who are teaching crazy things right now. But praise God, we have the Synod, and we have a magisterial document coming out of it. And most importantly, we have 2,000 years of Catholic tradition. And when it comes to homosexual acts and homosexual marriage, we're talking about the infallible teaching of the church. Cannot change, is not going to change. Folks, you know what? We need your help right now. Cindy, God bless you for calling. Please, though, folks, we need today the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ presented in charity and with sanity, so that the world can get to Jesus. Will you help us, folks? We've got 11 open lines here. We need you to call now at 888-291-8000. That's 888-291-8000. Remember, you give that monthly gift, it's going to be tripled, folks. And we're talking, and every dollar, folks, give that $1,000 gift right now. It becomes $2,000 at 888-291-8000. And I will guarantee you this. We hear the testimonies every day of people who call, who write, who meet us in person and say, like I just said the other day, I met another one while I was on vacation who said, thank you for what you do at Catholic Answers, man. You're the reason why I am Catholic. That's priceless. But folks, we're not going to meet our match at this rate because we've only got 4 callers on the line. Make that 5. We need a call now at 888-291-8000. That's 888-291-8000.
888-291-8000 is the call, the place to call to make your pledge and get every dollar matched, dollar for dollar, up to $20,000 this hour. Also, any new monthly pledge, you start a $10 monthly pledge, you start a $20 monthly pledge, $100 month, whatever it is, it's going to be matched again. So your money is essentially tripled this hour with new monthly pledges, all the way up to $20,000 this hour. We got a long way to go, but with your help, we will get there. 888-291-8000. I really want to thank the people who called early because often we can really fill up the lines the last hour of a pledge drive, but it's very hard to do the first hour. So those of you who are kind enough to pick up the phone and call now, you're kind of giving twice in a sense because you're leaving a line open on the last day of the pledge drive for somebody else to use. So right now, Tim just asked for more calls, and more calls have come in. There's 8 calls on the line now, 6 lines open. Great time to call, 888-291-8000. But I'm not going to, if you'll keep responding, I'm not going to spend too much time asking you to call. We'll just let Tim answer questions and do what we usually do here at Catholic Answers, answering questions about the Catholic faith. And we'll go to Boise, Idaho, where Matt is listening on 1140 a.m. Matt, go ahead with your question.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I'm driving, so I'm going to ask the question and hang up with a steer answer.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Great.
Hey, I was born and raised Catholic, altar boy, and I've been taking communion my whole life. And I realized that the body and blood of Christ, that's actually His body and blood. My question is, sometimes I'll go to a Christian church and they do the cracker and the juice.
Yes.
And I realize that's not His body and blood.
Yes.
Is it a bad thing to do that in His remembrance?
Right.
Well, that's my question.
Sure. Well, Matt, you're talking to a former Assembly of God youth minister, and I know I was raised a Southern Baptist as well. And so, God bless them. Those who are raised in that tradition like I was, they're basically doing the best they can with the knowledge that they have. And their version of communion, of course, is inadequate. It's not what Jesus established. The grape juice and crackers, no. What Jesus established was the church. And in Luke 22:19, when Jesus said the first Mass on Holy Thursday, He then says to the apostles, do this in memory. Luke 22:19, do this in memory of me. And we believe that at that point, He ordained the apostles as priests. Why? Because He empowered them to do the same thing He was doing. And what was He doing on Holy Thursday? Offering Himself, body, blood, soul, and divinity, under the appearances of bread and wine. Now, here's the key. There was only the apostles there. And so when He communicated that power, He communicated to the apostles alone through the sacrament of holy orders. Now, they in turn then had to ordain others and communicate that power to them. And we call that apostolic succession. That's entirely a biblical concept. In fact, it's all over the place in the New Testament. For example, in Romans chapter 10, verse 14, St. Paul talks about how someone cannot even go out and preach unless they have been sent by proper authority. You see that in Acts chapter 15, verses 24 through 28 at the first church council. He said that nobody has authority to either speak or confess sacraments unless they are sent by apostolic authority, okay? And so what happens with Protestantism, now we had a split in the 11th century with the Orthodox. It was really finally formalized in 1054. They had valid bishops. Now follow me on this, Matt, who were ordained by bishops, back to the apostles. So they have a valid Eucharist. This is why in the Orthodox communions, whether it's Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, etc., they have valid sacraments because they had valid bishops. Even though they're not in full communion with the church, they're not in full communion with the Pope, they do have valid sacraments. And of course, we pray for full reunion with them as well, and we are working to that end. But 500 years later, when the Protestants split with the church, they didn't have any bishops. And so without a bishop, because remember, the apostles received the power, and they in turn, according to Acts chapter 1, verse 20, they in turn ordained bishops, the bishopric, episcopae, as Acts chapter 1, verse 20 puts it, and communicated to them the power to confect the sacraments, most especially the Eucharist for our purpose here. Okay? So without bishops, the Protestants do not have the Eucharist. And now there are other reasons, but that's the main reason. They do not have apostolic succession. Now, the fact is, even if they did, because of their rejection of the real presence of the Lord in the Eucharist, their rejection of the holy sacrifice of the Mass, their orders wouldn't have been valid anyway, because in order to ordain a priest, you have to ordain a priest to offer the holy sacrifice. If you're going to ordain somebody who's not there to offer the holy sacrifice, well, then you're not ordaining a priest, right? So that's why their grape juice and crackers, and it doesn't matter if they use bread and wine or grape juice and crackers, the bottom line is they do not have valid bishops, therefore they do not have a valid Eucharist. And so that's why we as Catholics cannot receive communion in their, illicitly, right? Communion in their churches, because, we would be lying, committing sacrilege. Because in receiving communion in a particular community, you're saying, I'm in communion with you. But we're not as Catholics. So that would be a lie. And that's why they can't receive ordinarily the sacraments in our churches either, because we pray for that full reunion that is necessary, whether they be Orthodox or Protestant, so that we can all gather around that same Eucharistic table, and so that we can say, I am truly in union with Jesus Christ, with his vicar, the Bishop of Rome, all the bishops in union with him. Then we are truly in communion and can receive communion. So God bless you for your call, brother.
Thanks, Matt. We're halfway through the hour, and we're 1/3 of the way towards our match, which is actually pretty good. I don't like to deceive you. Usually we start off slower. So if we just stick with it, we can make it this hour.
You have more faith than I do, brother.
888-291-8000.
Will you do us a favor right now? Clear your mind of all other thoughts and reflect for just a moment on how Catholic Answers Live has made a difference in your life. Has our broadcast made your afternoon commute more meaningful? Perhaps you've learned how to explain the faith to family or friends in a more vibrant, convincing way. Something you heard here may have been just the thing you needed to look into joining or returning to the Catholic faith. All of these are serious reasons to be thankful, first and foremost to God, but also to all who have financially made it possible for us to air the show each day. Believe me, our gratitude could not be deeper. And we're coming to you today during our quarterly membership drive, asking you to join the ranks of the great people whose gifts and sacrifices have helped to turn around countless lives over the years, and very possibly helped make an eternal difference for many of them. Think about that for a moment. That's what your prayers and donations to Catholic Answers Live are doing. What a tremendous opportunity is being presented to you right now. Please don't let it pass you by. Call 888-291-8000 or visit CatholicAnswersRadio.com and let one of our fast, friendly customer service team members take your pledge. Large or small, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you call right now. Again, it's 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. We're offering some great appreciation gifts that are sure to deepen your faith life even more. But what's best is you'll have the confidence that when you turn your radio on tomorrow, or next week, or 12 days from now, we'll be here, boldly and charitably presenting the truth to a world that's searching for precisely that. Your pledge is vital to keeping Catholic Answers live on the air. Will you make the call today to 888-291-8000 or donate securely online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com? Thank you so much in advance. Give now at CatholicAnswersRadio.com or 888-291-8000. God bless you.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Tim and I don't always agree on what constitutes a good start. I'm like, what? We're 1/3 of the way there. He's like, 1/3 of the way there.
I'm dying.
But we are 1/3 of the way there. So we can make it this hour. We have a $20,000 dollar for dollar match. Those matches are they're made possible by very generous donors, and if we meet them, it doesn't guarantee we're going to meet our overall goal, but it usually is a good sign that we're going to do well on the overall goal, which in order to be fully funded here at Catholic Answers for a quarter of a year is $220,000. So that's what we're going for over these 6 hours. But if we can do $20,000 in the first hour, we'll be well on our way. So a perfect time to pick up the phone and call. We've got 13 of our colleagues waiting on the phones. They just stopped doing what they usually do and just plug into our phone system for these 2 hours. And so 13 of them are waiting for your calls right now. 6 of them are engaged with calls. So 7 lines open, now 8 lines open because another person got on the line. So 888-291-8000. Take advantage of that $20,000 dollar for dollar match. We've had a few people do a $10 a month recurring donation. Well, just think about that. That's $120 that got doubled to $240, and then it got another match, which got it to
awesome.
$360.
Yeah.
We've had several people who did $100 a month. If you can do that, that's extraordinary, and that's $3,600 to us when that's all matched.
Amen.
So, and you're a member of the President's Club. If you want to know about what that means, you can go online and check out our President's Club. So 888-291-8000 is the number. 8 lines open right now. You can also do it yourself, safe and secure, at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Please take advantage of those matches right now because we really do want to use up this match, the entire match this hour. 888-291-8000. But we're not letting Tim out of his regular job. He's got to answer questions.
Let's do it.
As well as raise funds. So off we go to South Dakota. Tracy, watching on YouTube. Tracy, thank you very, very much for your call. Go ahead with your question for Tim.
Thank you so much for answering my call.
Yes.
So I'm going to try and keep this as short as I can.
That's usually not a good start. That is, I'm just going to say to you right now, that is usually not a good start to a call. But all right, we're trusting you that you're going to try to keep it short. But go ahead.
Okay. So to keep it short, as best I can, I have severe scrupulosity.
Okay.
I'm seeing somebody for it, kind of getting treatment for it, trying to, get over it.
Right.
I'm not going to call up and ask, is this a sin? But it's gotten pretty severe at times.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's like I'm terrified of 666. I'm terrified of seeing it everywhere.
Right.
It gets pretty bad, like to the point I'm not sure how often I can trust myself with my conscience. The question I have is that there's a verse in the Bible. This is kind of one that's been troubling me for some time.
Right.
And it says, basically, it's in the New Testament, and I forgot exactly which one, but it says, but the one who eats is condemned if he does eat, because his eating does not come from sin. And I've heard this be used.
It doesn't come from
to
faith.
Apply to.
Yeah, that's
it
Romans
doesn't
chapter
come-
14. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
The thing is, go ahead. Is there a way to understand this in a way without taking it way too far, especially if you're like me and you second guess and doubt absolutely everything, even doing the right thing sometimes?
Right.
Is there a way to understand this without going, overboard?
Yeah. Tracy here, and your name is Tracy?
Yes.
Okay. Tracy, here's the key. Dealing with scrupulosity, and I'm sure you know this, anyone listening, you really do need to get a spiritual director, a priest that you can talk to, because there's most often all sorts of psychological layers that sort of undergird scrupulosity, and there's so many different levels of scrupulosity. But to me, Tracy, you and I are so blessed to be Catholic because we have the magisterium of the Catholic Church. And the magisterium is the clearest, best antidote for scrupulosity. Because see, what Paul's talking about in Romans 14 were people who are being scrupulous over eating meats offered to idols. And this had been a huge issue in the first few decades of the Christian era. And so they were struggling over this because, you can't eat meats offered to idols because you're participating in demons. Paul said that in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. And so, what do I do? And so the key is to listen to the voice of Jesus Christ who speaks through Scripture, tradition, and the magisterium of the church. You read through the letters of St. Paul, for example, and you can see just in St. Paul how he guides the discourse, right? But the sort of unifying message is, when it came to eating meats offered to idols, are you partaking of these, thinking that these are going to help you spiritually? Because if you are doing that, then you are in sin, right? It's just like Jews. And what's interesting, when Paul's writing to mostly Gentile churches, like in Romans and Galatians, he focuses on eating meats offered to idols because that was the issue. When he writes, or we don't know who wrote Hebrews, some believe St. Paul, some believe Apollos, some believe others, but it was definitely Pauline. Paul focuses on the sacrifices at the temple because there were Jews who were going back to the temple for salvation, just like there were Gentiles going back to their temples and sacrifices for salvation. And so that was the key. Paul is condemning, if you are receiving these, for salvation, spiritual benefit and such, you're rejecting Jesus Christ, right? So that was the key issue. But then there came another issue. If you're doing this as well, even those who are free and you understand, hey, I'm not doing this for salvation. If I go to the market, man, I can't get any meat because everything is consecrated to this God or that God. And then Paul is saying, yes, it's okay to eat this. However, you have to think about scandal, because if it's causing scandal, don't eat. And that's Paul's point here in Romans chapter 14, which, by the way, over the decades, and the Council of Florence would deal with this. In 1435, there was a letter written on this very thing, and the situation waned to the point where the church no longer had any prohibitions whatsoever against eating meats offered to idols because the issue went away over time. But the key is for you, Tracy, is that when you're in the midst of it, you listen to the mind of Christ as his voice comes through Scripture, tradition, and the magisterium of the church. And that's going to help tremendously, right? And getting a good spiritual director so that you don't go to extremes thinking, if I eat this meat offered to idols, I'm going to hell, going from one extreme to another. So the best combat against scrupulosity is the faith. And notice when Paul says that, if you eat and you doubt, you're damned, because whatever does not come from faith is sin. He's actually saying whatever does not come from the faith is sin, right? He's not making this completely subjective, as some say, but he's telling his listeners, look, listen to me, I'm an apostle. Listen to the church and what the church says, and form your conscience in accordance with that teaching, and that will greatly aid you in overcoming. Listen to the Holy Father. Listen, to the magisterial teachings of the church that have dealt with these matters, and you'll find peace for your soul, brother, to where you can say, you know what, man, thank you, Jesus. And when need be, you go to confession and you talk to a spiritual director as well. Does that help at all, brother?
Probably have to do some reading on the Council of Florence then.
Yeah.
But,
The Council of
thank you.
Florence
Yeah.
has a section on that matter of eating meats offered to idols. It's outstanding, and ultimately that issue goes back to Jesus, who really put the thing to rest when he said in Matthew chapter 15, right? It's not that which goes into the mouth that defiles a man, but it's that which comes out of the mouth, ek cardion, out of the heart. That's what defiles a man. And in Mark's version of that same text, I think that's in Mark chapter 9, he says, thus he made all foods clean. Right? This is why Jesus would say to Peter in the book of Acts chapter 10, don't you call, when Jesus says to Peter, here, eat. There was all manner of quote unquote unclean beasts. And Peter says, not so, Lord, I've never eaten anything unclean. And what does Jesus say? Don't you call unclean what I have called clean. All right. So, man, there's a lot more we could say here, but yes, stay close to the teachings of the church. The church has everything you need. And then stay close to a good holy priest, my brother.
Now I'm starting to worry about this hour a little bit. We got 13 of our colleagues on the line ready to take your pledge calls. We have a $20,000 dollar for dollar match. We're about $9,500 into that, so we can still about halfway. Let's call it halfway, and we've got about 15 minutes left to ask you for your help. Pick up that phone, please. 888-291-8000 is the number to call to help keep us on the air for the next 3 months doing what we do. As we have for the last 25 years, we just come to you and ask you for your support. It's always worked. We have every reason to have faith in it, but it doesn't work if you don't call. 888-291-8000, or you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
And folks, you have to realize that at the outset, where we are right now, we're kind of swimming upstream because we have an attrition rate here at Catholic Answers of donors who drop off. And there's various reasons why that happens. Some move away from areas that have radio and they just stop giving. We have some who simply die. And they're not giving any longer. And so, folks, we need some of you to call right now to replenish, fill in the holes, the gaps of those we've lost. So please call 888-291-8000. Give that one-time gift of $25, $50, $100. It means everything to us. We need those monthly donors. That is going to be tripled, folks. 888-291-8000. Again, you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. You can text Catholic to 24365. But remember this as well. My friends, if we could communicate to you the numbers of people, I mentioned it briefly, the thousands upon thousands around the world, the messages we get, they're transformed because of the message they hear through Joe Heschmeyer, Jimmy Akin, Trent Horn, Carlo Broussard, or even this knucklehead, Tim Staples or Cy Kellett, and the hundreds of guests that we have proclaiming the gospel here, their lives are changed. Folks, what would you give for that? Well, folks, it's priceless. So right now, we've got 10 open lines, and we need your help because we are up against it now, as Cy said. We've had a real lull right now, so we need you. If you've been thinking about it, now's the time. Pick up that phone, 888. That's 888-291-8000. We need that monthly gift right now. And let me ask you, because we're coming down to it, and I'm not sure we're going to make this match, my friends. I don't have the faith of Cy Kellett. We need somebody to call right now and give that $10,000 gift. We need somebody that's going to give that $5,000 gift. It will be doubled, my friend. We need some multiple callers right now who can give that $1,000 gift, $2,000, $3,000. I know there's somebody that can give that $10,000 gift, and I know there's somebody that can give that $5,000 gift, and I'm betting on 5, 6, 7 that can give that $1,000, and I guarantee you there's hundreds that I'm talking to right now that can give that $25, $50 gift one time, or that $25 a month, $50 a month. Maybe you're already giving that monthly gift. Up the ante, folks. Make that $20 a month you're giving $40. Make that $25, $50, and we'll make this together.
888-291-8000. We're going to take an extremely quick break and come back and answer more questions. Perfect time for you to call, 888-291-8000. CatholicAnswersRadio.com. You can go there and make your pledge safe and secure online. In about 90 seconds, you can get it done. Maybe take your time if you'd like, but it can be done very quickly. CatholicAnswersRadio.com, or pick up the phone and call 888-291-8000.
Catholic Answers Live.
One of the biggest mistakes a Christian can make is to try to do good without God's help. St. Therese said, "When we trust only ourselves and not God, our soul becomes incapable of virtue." Her remedy? Works of charity. And the greatest work of charity is to share the gospel. At St. Paul Street Evangelization, a Catholic nonprofit, we encourage you to share the gospel with someone who doesn't know Jesus. Catholic Answers is supported in part by St. Paul Street Evangelization. StreetEvangelization.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. We have so many good friends here who help us out, and we're very grateful to everyone who picked up the phone. I'm going to tell you right now, I think my computer stopped tracking it a little while ago, and that was at 43 calls already today. So that's a wonderful first hour. We're not even done with the first hour. I'm sure we can do many more calls between now and the end. I do want to make a special invitation to those who have not given before and would like to come in at an introductory level. We have this really cool thing called the Society 315. And it's a $10 a month pledge, which is tripled right now because we've got the $20,000 dollar for dollar match this hour, which we have not used up. And we've got a second match for anyone who starts a new monthly pledge. So I want to invite you to come in maybe at that $10 level if you haven't given before and you'd like to start at that at a kind of beginning level. We depend on you. We need you. We really, it's very, very much appreciated. And we try to show the appreciation by sending out emails with behind the scenes stuff. Like I got a behind the scenes email today about Joe Heschmeyer in his new studio, and also interviews that you won't get in other places, all kinds of bonus material. But what happens when you call and make your pledge of $10 a month and join Society 315? Automatically when you call, you get the Society 315 t-shirt, which is really cool. You get the Catholic.com car magnet. You get a 20% discount at shop.catholic.com. And then we're going to give you a new radio a premium. It's called the Hallow app for a year. You get it, the premium Hallow app. So I don't even know what you would pay for that, but it's probably, I don't know, it's more than probably what you're paying in your pledge. So I just want to really encourage you, take a little time, pick up the phone while we have lines open. And if you can do that $10 a month, that's really the backbone of what we do here is those monthly pledges, 888-291-8000. And we're getting close to using up the match. Thanks, I have to say, to I know who that donor is. Someone just gave $5,000.
Oh, praise God.
A friend of ours who would probably not like me to say her name on the air, but that was very kind of you. Friend, and I'm going to go to Stefan now in Sweden watching on YouTube.
But folks, we're still a long way from meeting the match.
We have thousands left to go this hour.
That's right. We need you to get on that phone at 888-291-8000. Sorry, Si, I had to jump.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Stefan in Sweden, go ahead with your question for Tim.
Yes, it's basically like, when does ownership of something end? Like, for example, if a company throws things away, like a restaurant or like a store for food or other things.
Yes. Oh, Stefan, that's a good question. You know, you remind me of in the Old Testament there was the idea of gleaning, right? Because when the grains were being harvested in the field, in fact, God commanded the Israelites to leave behind some of the grain purposefully. And of course, it's going to be left behind anyway, so that the gleaners, these are the poor that can't afford food, could come out and glean and eat. And for many of them, it was the difference between life and death. And so that's an example from the Old Testament. But the principle is true that when people throw something out, oh my goodness, being one that has traveled to India, I saw over there are just, we don't even know the numbers, millions who live off of trash dumps. It's horrible to see. But for anyone to say those people are stealing, right, because they're taking stuff from the trash in order to survive, of course, that is absurd. So when a restaurant, for example, throws out food, they have thrown it out. It's no longer theirs. And so if the poor are reduced to that level of necessity, absolutely. And we could talk a lot more about, hoarding and so forth. There's a wonderful section in the Catechism of the Catholic Church on the virtues, on the not the virtues, but the corporal and spiritual works of mercy that teach on this, how that we have an obligation to give, and those who would hoard, for example, when people are starving, there is a very ancient moral principle that says they are, in fact, St. John Chrysostom is quoted in the Catechism as saying they're stealing from the poor, because we don't have a right to hoard food to ourselves when there are other people starving. Oh my goodness, I always think about that when I hear all these billionaires and so forth and the poverty around the world. Oh my goodness, folks, we need to challenge ourselves and challenge others. And I got to say it, Pope Francis does it in every letter he writes. He challenges the rich to give to the poor. I know I went beyond a simple answer. The simple answer is yes. The poor and those in need are free to take those things that the rich or those with abundance have thrown away. But folks, that's a challenge for all of us, I believe. When you look at the poverty in this world, the Philippines, India, and we've got a lot of poverty in the United States of America. You go to Appalachia. I actually ministered in the mountains of Maryland with those poor families, and it was heartbreaking to see the level of poverty there. Folks, it really makes you think twice about how much you and I need to give. Well, folks, we need you to give right now, and thank you for your call, brother.
We're 4,000 away.
Oh, my gosh.
Match. 4,000 to go in the next 5 minutes.
I want somebody right now to pick up the phone and give $5,000 so that my heart rate will go down. How's that? But you know what? Seriously, folks, we here at Catholic Answers are proclaiming the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is what we do. We proclaim the gospel and lives are changed around the world. What would you give for that? Please remember, this thing isn't going to continue automatically. Some people, you and I have talked about this before, we've seen networks come and go. We've seen them pass out of existence because people didn't support and they dropped off. If folks don't call in right now, Cy Kellett, guess what? You and I go away. That's just the simple fact.
I have to go home. I can't come here anymore.
It's a simple fact. So, folks, what would you give for the salvation of souls? Well, thousands upon thousands and thousands, tens of thousands around the world have testified and continue to testify. Their lives were transformed because of Catholic Answers Live. How much would you give, folks? How about
3,000
right
to
now?
go. Sorry.
888-291-8000. Can you give $5,000 right now? Can you give $2,000, $1,000? Can you be that one that will give $25 a month? And it will be tripled right now. Folks, that's $3,600. Did I say $100 a month?
Yeah.
Or did I say $25?
Oh, you said $25 a month.
$25 a month becomes $900. $100 a month becomes $3,600. Folks, we can do this. Pick up the phone right now, 888-291-8000. We've got 7 open lines. That should not be. 888-291-8000, or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com or text Catholic to 24365.
I wish I could thank everybody by name, but let's just select some. Maria from Massachusetts donated $100 a month.
Oh, praise God.
Gretchen from North Carolina just started a brand new $25 a month donation. Gretchen, thank you. Christine in Somerville came back to the church because of EWTN and Catholic Answers Live and donated $103. Christine, thank you. Elodie from Virginia sending a check for $500. Elodie, thank you very, very much. How about this one? A monthly donor, Andrew. He's in Virginia. He's already a monthly donor. Just gave an additional $40, and that will also be matched dollar for dollar. Everything matched up to $20,000 this hour. 888-291-8000 is the place to go. 888-291-8000. I've noticed some folks taking me up on that idea of joining. Let me just five people, six just joined our Society 315. It's a great entry level. It's $10 a month. It's tripled right now. And you get the T-shirt and the car magnet and the discount, and you become a member of Society 315, which is a lot of bonus material over the course of the year. Maybe try that. Hey, if you could come in at the $20 a month level, in addition to all that I just mentioned, hey, lines are filling up. Lines are filling up.
Keep calling, folks.
888-291-8000. In addition to all that I just mentioned, if you can come in at the $20 a month level, we'll also be able to send you Joe's book, the new book, The Eucharist is Really Jesus, the brand new book from Joe Heschmeyer, and the revised Persuasive Pro-Life, the second edition from Trent Horn. We'll send you both of those books if you can come in at the $20 a month level. You can go safe and secure online right now to CatholicAnswersRadio.com to make your pledge. I'll tell you what, let me see if we're getting close to making that match. 888-291-8000 is the number. We are doing that little circle thing. When it's done doing that circle thing, I'll tell you.
Yes.
All right, well, we're $2,500 away. $2,500 away from from meeting the match in a few seconds to go in this hour. Next hour, Joe Heschmeyer is going to be here. We'll continue answering questions. So if you're on the line, hang on the line.
We've got 5 minutes left, right?
We got to the top of the hour. Yes, right. So we don't stop answering the phones just because we go off the air. We'll just stop asking you to call when we go off the air for the top of the hour break.
But you keep calling.
That's a perfect time to call. As a matter of fact,
888-291-8000, because we go right up till the end of the hour to meet that match.
Hey, if you just want to take care of it on your phone, just text the word Catholic to 24365, because we're Catholic 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Text that word Catholic to 24365. It'll take you to a place where you can make your pledge very, very quickly. You can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, or let's keep those phones full to the top of the hour. See if we can make this match to start this pledge drive. 888-291-8000. 888-291-8000.
I want to thank everybody who has called and is calling. God bless you all. Let me tell you, there is good stuff coming in the church and in this world because of your generosity.
888-291-8000. Joe Heschmeyer coming up. We're going to continue with Open Forum, and I'll let you know as soon as we come back. If we make that match, it looks like 2,200 away right now. We can do it. 888-291-8000. Right back with more Open Forum on Catholic Answers Live. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. Oh, man, what a first hour. It's open forum. You're welcome to call 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. We don't see Tim for a couple weeks. He just comes in here, boom, on fire for the first hour. If you've got a question about the Catholic faith, and you'd like to ask a Catholic apologist, Joe Heschmeyer is here to answer your questions, whether you're Catholic or not. Non-Catholics, very, very welcome. You're not a Christian. Maybe you're not even, you don't believe in God at all, or whatever. We love having these conversations about the faith. If you've got a question or you want to get into a conversation about something, just pick up the phone and call 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. The other thing that we will do during this hour is raise a little bit of well, I hope it's not a little bit, actually. My hope is that it'd be more than a little bit. But we'll raise the money that we need to stay funded. The way Catholic Answers Live works is this radio program is just given free to whoever wants it. The radio stations that take this program, they're kind enough to let us ask you to pay for it so that we can keep doing it. It's all over the world. It's broadcast. You often hear we get calls from Europe, we get calls from Africa, we get calls from Asia and the South Pacific, and from odd places like Canada and New York. And it's all because you pay for it. And 3 times a year, we got to come to you and ask you to fund it. And that's what we're going to do this hour. As I said, Joe Heschmeyer is our guest. He's got a brand new book called The Eucharist Really Is Jesus. Joe, thanks very much for being here with us.
It's my pleasure to be here. Although I got to tell you, following Tim is like, putting the headline act as the opener.
I know. It's like the Rolling Stones following James Brown.
A reference that has got an extremely specific vintage on it. But yeah,
you know what I'm talking about. Mick Jagger said it was the worst decision he ever made was following James Brown. 888-318-7884 is the number to call and ask Joe your question. I'll say it one more time, and then I'm going to give out the other number. 888-318-7884. Your call, welcome. There's a $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match this hour, just like we did last hour. And Tim, he just gets fired up, and people are so generous to responding, and we blew past. I'm really surprised. We blew past by $3,500 the match last hour, and that is a great way to start a pledge drive. Not a great way for Joe, though, who is now intimidated for this entire hour.
I think the pitch for this hour should be, please don't let Tim make me look that bad.
Yeah, right. By that bad is what is.
Yeah, I'm not expecting to beat him, but let it at least make it look like we were
respectable.
Close-ish.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's make that our motto for this hour. Make it respectable.
Yes.
888-291-8000. Take advantage of both matches. Any new monthly pledge is going to be matched twice because we've got 2 separate donors who will match your pledge. Any pledge at all, like you call up and say, hey, I can give you $5 right now, it's going to be doubled. 888-291-8000. We have 11 of our colleagues on the line right now, and 2 are engaged. So that means 9 lines open for you. 888-291-8000, 888-291-8000. Joe, I am going to get some questions together for you, but what do you think? Is it worth supporting Catholic Answers Live?
I do it myself. I'm a monthly donor. So, I'm not just the president, I'm also a user. What's that old
the Hair Club for Men. Yeah. Boy, it's going to be all 1970s references today.
Exactly. We know who has the money, and it's not millennials.
And we'll be spinning tunes from the Osmond Brothers and the Jackson 5.
Exactly.
I'm a donor too, and I try to give to the local Catholic radio stations as well. I mean, we can't. My wife, we don't have a lot of money, so we can't give to everybody, but we try to at least put our money where our mouth is, because Catholic radio is where it is at as far as
your mouth literally is on Catholic radio.
Well, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. So I got to put my money where that is. And but it is where it's at as far as evangelizing, as far as sharing the good news, as far as returning the world to sanity.
Let me give a quick testimonial to this that just happened literally. I was getting ready to take calls last hour, and a woman called in. And she, I think, did not know it was a fundraising hour. And she just called in and said, I grew up Protestant. I lost interest in God from an early age over the idea of what's called double predestination. She didn't like this Protestant idea. Not all Protestants share this, mostly Calvinists, that God created some people intending them to go to hell. And she kind of was disgusted with that, walked away from Christianity completely, explored Hinduism, Native American religions, and the like, but then felt this tug to take Christianity seriously and discovered the Catholic Church. And so she had a bunch of questions about that and about trying to figure out if she was married in the eyes of God. And there was, a lot of stuff there with annulments and the rest. But it was beautiful because she literally just said, should I just look somebody up in the phone book? To speak of another 1970s reference. We don't really have those anymore. Yeah. But it was great because she was listening to Catholic radio, heard a phone number, and called it and just poured out her heart and said, here's where I am. I'm trying to figure this out. I have no idea where to turn next. And she said explicitly, I don't know any Catholics. My most in-person conversation with Catholics was grade school kids. And
wow.
So this is what Catholic radio does. When you have people like this who they feel that tug by God, it lets them get connected to something human, something personal, and a way where people can really walk them through whatever the particular problems are of their life.
So while Tim and I, that was great, but I also got this out of it. While Tim and I were on the air last hour, you were taking pledge calls?
I was trying to. I got $0 because I had a 25-minute phone call with this woman, and then I had to get ready for the second hour. But
hey,
look, I'm not just a pretty face. I'm also I'm part of the team, so I take calls when I'm not on the show.
Well, thanks for trying to do the right thing, Joe. Hey, there's 7 lines open. 888-291-8000 is the number to call. Please call and make your pledge. We have a $20,000 dollar for dollar match this hour, just as we did last hour. These matches are arranged so that if we make them, we will come very close to reaching our goal. And the last hour, we have to push beyond, and that usually gets us there. But it's $220,000, which in media terms is nothing. I'm telling you, that is seconds of airtime for a television commercial on a network television show. That's what pays all the bills to bring this to you and to bring it around the world for the next 3 months. But we got to raise it. It is not a ton of money. God has plenty of friends with lots of money who can call and make those pledges. But we've got to ask you, and then you've got to pick up the phone and respond in order for us to be able to pay the bills for the next 3 months. 888-291-8000. I'm going to leave that with you while I get Joe to do his day job, which is answer questions. He's better at it than taking donations, apparently. So let's go to Michael in Buffalo, New York, watching on YouTube. Michael, we're awful glad you're here. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Hello, Joe. It's Michael from Buffalo.
I think I just spoke to you in person 2 days ago.
You did. We were at the booth, the Catholic Answers booth on Sunday. So I have a question for you I didn't get to ask you. So is there a record of when the earliest Mass was performed where the Eucharist was received after Pentecost?
Oh, that's a fascinating question. So literally just the first time somebody said Mass?
Well, it doesn't have to be Mass, but receiving the Eucharist.
We have references to the breaking of the bread in Acts 2. I'm imagining that's going to be the earliest. So Acts 2, verse 42, talks about the early Christian community, and it talks about what that was like. And so it says they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. And the breaking of bread is the Eucharist. But we don't know explicitly what day that happened on. But this testimony comes literally one verse after Pentecost. So Pentecost is Acts 2, 1-41. And then this is literally the next verse.
I see. So that's something that I've always wondered if the Blessed Mother would have received the Eucharist.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, she gives us the body of Christ, and so there's something very fitting about her receiving the body of Christ.
Oh, absolutely. So what would you say to those Catholics? I know that stat is so disturbing that don't believe in the real presence now. What would you do to connect them to the real presence?
Yeah, so I would say this. When you look at those really scary numbers, Gallup had, I think it was Gallup or Pew.
Pew.
Had a study a couple, okay, that's right. Excuse you.
All right, Joe,
Anyway,
just answer the question.
There's a reason I don't have a night job as a stand-up. Anyway, when you look at those numbers that are really disturbing, and it says like 2/3 of Catholics don't believe in the real presence. When you go to the second line and they break that down by mass attendance, what you find is that Catholics who regularly go to mass, it's about 90% believe in the real presence. It's been a while since I've seen the numbers, but it was somewhere around there, which is a lot better. Still disturbingly low in a sense. It should be 100%, but much more of what you might imagine, much more of what you might expect. And so what you have dragging the numbers down are a bunch of people who may answer Catholic on a survey, who go to mass on Christmas and Easter or not at all, or you know, occasionally might go when they're home visiting their family. And as a result, they're not really bought in. And that's an important thing to know, because it means that it handicaps a lot of the solutions. You can't just say, we need better preaching about the Eucharist at Mass. That's great to move that 90% up to 100. But if the problem involves mostly people who aren't even in church and aren't connected to the church, then it's a much more foundational issue of how do you get people connected to the church. That is the $1 million question. And I think, or I guess $64,000 question if we're doing 1970s references. And I think in that, it's largely about getting people connected to community. It's not first and foremost answering all the doctrinal questions. It's making people interested in what it is to be a serious Catholic, so that they'll start asking those questions themselves. Like you can have all the answers to the questions, and if nobody's asking those questions, that there's going to be like on deaf ears. And so being able to cultivate the relationships and the friendships and inviting people to Catholic things, even if it's just you and a couple other Catholic friends going out for a drink and inviting a lukewarm or non-Catholic friend with you, when they start to see what you have and they don't, that's the kind of thing that piece by piece makes people start to ask those questions.
I'm going to say thanks very much for the call, because we do have to raise a little bit of money this hour. The way we fund this program is we ask you for the funds, and then we're able to give away the program free to anybody anywhere in the world who wants to broadcast it. So you hear listeners from around the world call the show. And it's a very, very simple proposition. We believe if you answer questions about the Catholic faith and you share the Catholic faith with people, more and more people will come to the faith. And that's what you're paying for when you're paying for this program. We explain and defend the Catholic faith. We depend on our listeners to support us to do that. It's actually a very small number of people who do. For example, right now, we have had, so far on the air today, 90 people have called, 89 people have called, and among the thousands, maybe tens of thousands, hundreds, I don't know how many thousands of people are listening around the world, and 90, well, we're looking for our 90th call right now. So that gives you an idea that it doesn't cost a huge amount, but it does cost something, and we need your help right now because we have 10 lines open. We have a huge amount of matching money this hour, and we have nobody on the line. 888-291-8000 is the number. 888-291-8000. I will tell you this. Part of the reason is we had that big rush right at the top of the last hour. Eric in North Dakota gave a $500 one-time donation as we were closing the last hour, and then he gave a $30 a month recurring donation. Eric, thank you so much. Dominic in Michigan gave $500, and I just want to tell you what Dominic said. He said he came back to the faith last fall after being away for 17 years, and he said Catholic radio helped him come home. You pay for that. We don't pay for that. We make, like Joe said, I give to the, I give monthly. Joe gives monthly. We support like you do, but we can't. We depend on you. We can't do this program without you, and we need your help right now because one call on right now, 888-291-8000. Let me explain the matches and explain what we can, some encouragements we have to your giving. And then we'll let Joe take some more calls. We have a $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match. And then we have a second match for anyone who starts a new monthly pledge. I've been suggesting that means that you're double matched if you start a new monthly pledge in any amount. I'm
thinking about Eric in North Dakota. He gave a $500 gift that was double matched, and then or it was matched, and then a $30 monthly gift that was double matched.
Yeah,
that's how he basically got a triple match there. I don't think that math quite checks out, but you get the idea.
I don't know how math works, but I'm pretty sure that was right. 888-291-8000 is the number to call. 888-291-8000. So let me tell you what let me give you some encouragements. First of all, we have this Society 315. It's the introductory level, so to speak. It we need to build those friendships with people. We know that. We want to build those friendships with people. So we send you all kinds of bonus stuff to join Society 315. I was just telling people today, Joe, I got a little thing from Society 315 today about your new home studio. And it's like the behind the scenes look at Joe in his home studio. And
in fact, we got a bunch of emails back from people. Most of them very encouraging. One of them very meaning. It was from my godfather and uncle.
Yeah, he was mean.
I hope Joe didn't help with the construction.
And you didn't. And that was good. Good call, Joe.
I watched and said, that looks great, Zach.
So Society 315 will send you a free a T-shirt. We'll send you the car magnet. We'll send you a 20% off a coupon for shop.catholic.com. But then you get all that bonus material throughout the year. That's $10 a month. Can you do that right now? 888-291-8000, 888-291-8000 at the $20 a month level. All of that I just mentioned, but we'll also send you Joe's book, The Eucharist is Really Jesus, and we'll send you the second edition, the updated version of Trent's book, Persuasive Pro-Life. You get both of those at the $20 level. Maybe you could come in at a $45 a month level. All of that I just mentioned is included in that. We're also going to send you 5 copies of our little booklet, Why We're Pro-Life, and you get a free Catholic Answers School of Apologetics course, Tim Staples' course, Defending the Saints at Catholic Answers School of Apologetics. That's at the $45 level. We need some folks to pick up the phone and call right now. Come in at those levels. Take advantage of all the matches, 888-291-8000, or Safe and Secure online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. And now, as I promised, we're just going to take calls. We're going to let Joe do his job. So we'll go to Kyle in Pennsylvania, listening on the Catholic Answers Live app. That app is all over the world now, and that is paid for also by our donors. Kyle, thank you so much for your call. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for taking my call.
Hi, Kyle.
My question is, when discussing with a Protestant on the essential beliefs of being a Christian, what would you say are some important talking points? And is there a list of essential beliefs, or can it really even be answered succinctly about what the most central beliefs of a Christian are according to the Catholic Church?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I would put it like this. You can find books, Ludwig Ott is a theologian who has a book called Fundamentals of Catholic Dogma, where he just lists all the different dogmas and what level of authority they're at and all that. I wouldn't go that way for most conversations, unless you're, talking to a theologian or someone with a really particular kind of question saying, do I need to believe X, Y, Z? The better question, I think, is to start asking about the church. And you can ask about the Bible as well. So questions like this. When Jesus says in Matthew 16, I will build my church, what does he mean by that? What kind of church is he building? And what does it mean for Jesus to build the church instead of for man to build the church? Is the church Jesus builds visible or invisible? Is it structured? Is it just all the Christians everywhere? And so that would be one kind of direction I would go with the conversation. Another direction I would go with the conversation is to ask about, whether there's a pope in that church. But then, as I said, I'd also talk about the Bible. Where does the Bible come from? How do we know we have exactly the right books in the Bible? If you get those questions, the reason I would focus on those areas, even though there are really crucial areas like the Eucharist, which the church has called the source and summit of the faith. If ever there was a fundamental, getting the Eucharist right is that fundamental. But I would still go with what does Jesus say about the church and where does the Bible come from? Because at the end of the day, we have to make it a really important switch. You don't want it to just be, do I accept what the church teaches over here? Do I accept what they teach over there? Where I'm still treating it as a cafeteria line, and I'm still deciding whether to accept or reject various parts of the faith. At some point, I have to say, I really believe the church is the body of Christ that St. Paul says it is in Ephesians 5. I really believe that the church is the household of God and the pillar and foundation of truth that St. Paul says it is in 1 Timothy 3:15. And once I believe that, then I can eventually get to myself to a point where I say, maybe me just reading the Bible in my living room, I'm going to read it one way. But for 2,000 years, better Christians than I have said it means this other thing. Now I trust God and I trust the Holy Spirit to guide not me privately apart from everybody else, but to guide the church into the fullness of truth, as he promised in John 14 and John 16. So I hope that makes sense. That in the same way, if you were a person in the first century listening to Jesus, you wouldn't just say, do I agree with him about forgiving my enemies? Do I agree with him about divorce and remarriage? Do I agree with him about XYZ? At some point, you have to say, who is he? Is he who he says he is? Because if he is, I should agree with him and I should trust him and I should believe in him. And if he isn't, then yeah, it's great that we happen to agree on some issues, but I'm not going to follow him. That's the make or break issue, right? Who is Jesus? And so with whether you should be Catholic or not, the make or break issue is, well, who is the Catholic Church? Is it the body of Christ or is it just a human organization? Because if it's the body of Christ, everyone should be Catholic. And if it isn't, then don't worry about it.
Kyle, again, I'm going to leave it there because we do have lots of work to do this hour, but thank you so much for the call, and I hope we'll get to talk with you again. The number to make your pledge, there's 5 lines open right now, 888-291-8000. We are in the first day of 3 days of asking you for your financial support so we can continue to do what we do for the next 3 months. That's how it works here at Catholic Answers Live. It's a very simple system. We rely on you, and you've always come through for us. Let's fill up those 5 lines. Let's use up that $20,000 dollar for dollar match. We're coming up on halfway through the hour, and we've only used up about a quarter of that match. I think we're a little under a quarter, as a matter of fact. So we need your help. 888-291-8000. I do have faith in you, however. I feel sanguine about it because I know you have always been there for us before. You can go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Pledges made there are subject to the exact same matches. Or if you'd like, you can just text the word Catholic to 24365. Catholic 24365. That's what we are. Just text it there. 888-291-8000. Joe, I'm going to just try to get you to work a little more before we got to take a break because I believe people are going to fill up the phones. So let's go to Clyde in Texas. Hi, Clyde.
Clyde, the Protestant from Texas who gave a little donation 3 months ago.
Oh, Clyde! Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Clyde.
Yes, sir. Well, I did again just during the first hour, but I needed to tell you a story about what happened after I made the call last year.
Okay.
I was driving. I live in Lubbock, Texas, and I listen to EWTN. South of us, about 2 hours, is Odessa, Texas, which is also EWTN, Guadalupe Network. So when I'm I listen to the EWTN every day. So I'm driving down the highway, and I was talking to you guys. I made the pledge, and they mentioned that I was from Texas. And about 5 minutes after I got off the line, I got a phone call, and it was from my nephew up in Oklahoma, 300 miles, 250 miles from here. He said, "Uncle Clyde, do you listen to EWTN?" Yes, I'm listening to it right now.
How cool.
I'm listening to it right now. I'm driving down the highway. He said, "That's great." He says, "I have a story to tell you." Now, his wife had died a few months before, and he's 65. He said, "I was spending about $150 a month on alcohol."
Oh.
And I thought there has to be a better way. And he says, "I worked Sunday, and I remembered that there was Catholic Mass, so I went. And I went again, and I went again, and I went again." And he got into conversation with the priest, and the priest said, "Well, Mr. Nichols, you can study, you can go to RCIA. You don't have to become a Catholic to study RCIA." He said, "Uncle Clyde, I was confirmed into the Catholic Church last Easter." And he said, when I took Eucharist the first time, he said, he had some description of how wonderful he felt when he took Eucharist the first time.
Clyde, what a story.
God bless you both. That is beautiful.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. And thank you for...
And I love that Catholic Radio is the means by which you found this information out about your nephew. That's
right. Well, and
I can't make that promise.
Quick questions. Yeah, I have 2 very quick questions that will require short answers.
Okay.
Will there ever be an American Pope?
God willing, it's certainly possible. I mean,
All right.
it was a surprise when we got a Polish one.
Not till there's an African one, I'm pretty sure.
That may be.
Yeah. Will there ever be a young pope like the bishop in New York?
There have been some young popes. I think a lot of times the cardinals maybe steer clear of that because
Right.
for two reasons. You get to know the older guys better. You've known them for a longer time, so you kind of know and trust them. And second, it's hard to know how a man's going to be at 80 when he's 30.
Yeah.
So that's a 50-year buy-on. Again, John Paul II was fairly young. He had a very long pontificate, and he wasn't Italian. So anything's possible in both those scores. Clyde, thank you so much for calling.
Clyde, you're a superstar. That was just a great call. Thank you so much. Hey, pick up the phone now. We're going to take a quick break. Great time to make your pledge. 888-291-8000. 10 lines open. Please fill them up. 888-291-8000.
Catholic Answers Live would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners in airing our daily program. Please support the stations and networks that carry us each day, ensuring that we have a platform for broadcasting the show. And please bear in mind that while we don't have to pay for airtime on our affiliate stations, neither do they contribute to the operating costs we incur. It's a great relationship, but it requires that we turn to you, our devoted listeners, for your prayers and financial support to cover our ever-growing expenses. Please call 888-291-8000 right now and help to keep Catholic Answers Live strong. That's 888-291-8000. Or you can donate securely online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. What began as a humble one-hour daily show that was carried by 4 stations has, with the generosity of many fantastic people like you, blossomed into a 2-hour broadcast heard on hundreds of AM and FM stations, the internet, Sirius XM radio, Facebook, YouTube, and via podcast. We don't make that possible. You do. We simply cannot continue this media mission without your most generous gift today. Call 888-291-8000 or log on to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and donate now. People tell us all the time how much they depend on Catholic Answers Live to help them better learn, live, and share their faith. What they're really saying is they depend on you for that. Will you come through for them right now? It only takes a couple of minutes to make a huge difference at 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Again, 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. No matter how much you give, be assured of our gratitude and know that God will richly bless you. Phone 888-291-8000 or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. It's important that you take this important step right now, today, to make sure that Catholic Answers Live is here tomorrow and for years to come. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm looking at the numbers Darren just gave me, and it says we're 42% of the way towards making the match this hour. So we can do it if we have a real strong last half hour, but we do, in fact, need your help to do it. We have a $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match this hour to help us pay for this program for the next 3 months. So anybody who calls up in the next half hour and makes a pledge up to that $20,000 limit is going to get matched 100%. So make a $5 pledge, it's $10. Make a $10 pledge, it's $20. Make a $100 pledge, it's $200. And the number to do that is 888-291-8000. If you've been thinking about supporting Catholic Answers, we would sure appreciate your help now to help us reach our goal for this hour, 888-291-8000. And if you are so inclined to make a new monthly pledge, say you say, you know what, I could do $10 a month. That will be matched twice this hour because we have 2 separate donors matching those donations. And so that will be matched twice, so essentially tripled. If you make a $10 a month pledge, it becomes $30 a month, which becomes a lot of money, $360, I think, to us by the end of the year. If you make a $100 a month pledge, and several people have made $100 a month pledges, I realize that's a lot of money, but some people are in a position to do it. And if you are, that's also tripled. That becomes $300 a month to us. 888-291-8000, 888-291-8000. To meet the match, we need to raise $10,000 this hour. The way we raise funds around here is we just tell you what we need. We try not to be deceptive. We tell you when things are going poorly, and we tell you when things are going well. And this has been a pretty good first day. I want to be honest with you, it's been a pretty good first day. But in order to bring it home, we've got a $10,000 half hour to do right now, a $10,000 half hour to do. If you could give in any amount, whether it's a monthly pledge or a one-time gift, it would be greatly appreciated around here. Our colleagues take these afternoons off and just sit by their phones ready to take your call. 888-291-8000. You can ask them about their job. You can chat with them. You can tell them your story. Or you can say, hey, I've got about a minute. Can you get me done with this? And they'll get you done quickly. Whatever you would prefer, 888-291-8000. 5 lines open right now of the 12 who are available. Could we please fill those up? And I will just keep bossing Joe around, making him answer questions because it's open for him. 888-291-8000 is where you can make your pledge, or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. I feel like people are helping you out, Joe. I think people are responding. They know that you don't want to be embarrassed following Tim Staples.
I thank you all for the Keeping Up with Tim challenge.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you're keeping up with Tim, but you're.
No, but I just have to lose in a respectable way. That's all I ask.
Let's let you answer a question. Let's go to Rob in Syracuse, New York, watching on YouTube. Rob, by the way, YouTube, another thing that you pay for. We can be on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and things you never even heard of. Well, maybe you did, but I never have heard of. In order to share this program, Rob, watching on YouTube, thank you so much for the call. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
First, real quick, you don't want to be on Twitch. You don't want to do it. Anyway.
Oh, is that? You know more about it than I do.
You don't do it.
All right, Rob.
Guys.
I thought that was a gaming platform. I don't know anything, but.
Yeah, well, gaming and shows about, and now they do.
No,
you know,
we don't have to do a Twitch review.
We get
the picture. Go ahead.
Yes. I don't. Speaking of YouTube, I watch a Catholic channel that replays a lot of homilies from churches.
Okay.
And one of the fathers gave a homily about penance, and he was talking about how in meals you're supposed to make yourself a meal like you would ordinarily make it, but not eat everything. Well, if you're halfway through eating anything, and most of the time you can't save it because there are very few things that you can throw in the refrigerator that actually, that's where leftovers got its bad name or rep from. What do you do it? Because I know it's an even bigger sin to waste God's food, God's resources.
Yeah, that's.
So I guess he's pushed me into a corner that I really don't understand. And if I can real quick, I promise to do $100 a month if Cy tells me what the blue thing is sitting on the table.
Oh, this is a cough button. $100 a month for a cough button. This is a cough button because I have to have it next to me because I'm always going like this. But yeah, I don't want people to hear that.
Yeah, it bleeps them out as well, so someone else can push
them. I promise to do it, but back to that question.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Rob. That's very nice of you. Thank you for the pledge.
Let me give a slightly modified form of the advice that you got from the priest. St. Jose Maria Escriva, in a book called The Way, says this. He says, the day you leave the table without having done some small mortification, you have eaten like a pagan. But there's a lot of ways you can have what he calls mortifications at the table. So that can mean you don't eat the last 2 bites. That can also mean you don't put ketchup on your fries, or you don't put salt on, or some small thing where you're always controlling your passions. You're never just giving in and just going crazy at the table. And the idea is really simple. Your passions are good and God-given, but they need to be disciplined or they will totally run the show. I almost want to compare them to children here. Your children are good and God-given, but if you just do everything they want to do whenever they want and you don't have any discipline, any command, they will become really bad children very quickly. I don't mean morally evil. I just mean out of control. Well, your passions will work like that. if you don't learn to keep them in line, and that means denying yourself, like maybe you don't have dessert, maybe you don't have, that sort of thing. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. It doesn't have to be that you prepare food and then leave the food uneaten. That's the first thing I'd say. The second thing, so don't intentionally make more food than you want. If you want to do the mortification, just prepare a little bit less food, and do it on that end. But if you've already been served a certain amount, or if you go to a restaurant and there's a set amount, something like that, you don't really have control over it, it's totally fine to leave a few bites and throw it in the garbage. You are not making anyone around the world starve by not becoming gluttonous. For a long time, American parents told their kids, eat your food. They're starving kids in China, Africa, wherever. And as a result, people continued to starve, and we just got fatter and fatter. That didn't actually help anybody. And so that's not, in other words, once the food is cooked, served, and can't be stored, that's not the time to figure out what's the proper portion. You should do it before that. Does that make any sense, Rob?
Well, hang on. I'm sorry. I put Rob on hold. Go ahead, Rob.
I was going to ask for some clarification. The priest said, fix your meals as you ordinarily would. So I'm assuming he means the same amount of food. So that would be a lot of waste.
Yeah.
Or am I?
Yeah, I would do it. I would do it slightly differently than what he's saying. I think he's got a good impulse and a good idea, but that if you read the writings of the saints on this subject, it's not prepare the same amount of food. It's deny yourself in some way at the table, and there are better ways to deny yourself, like cook a little less. Or, I mean, it's different. If, like you said, if it's non-perishable food, if you're eating a granola bar and you can eat half of it and save the other half for later, that's fine. But if you've got something that's going to spoil or go bad, I don't think you want to put yourself in a situation where you're intentionally making food to spoil, because that's not actually a good way of using the gifts God's given you.
Rob, I am going to leave it there and say thank you very, very much. We have lots of folks on the line for Joe. It's open forum. And but we between calls, we do have to take a minute to ask you for your support. We are coming into the last, about 16, 17 minutes of the program, and we've got a long way to go to use up our match for this hour. We have a $20,000 dollar for dollar match. We've had, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just look it up real quick, tell you how many people have called today. 119 people have called out of the thousands of people who have listened to this show, maybe for a minute, maybe you've been listening for the whole hour and a half that we've done so far. Out of all those thousands of people, 119 have called, and they are getting us closer and closer to that $40,000 match that we have for today. There's a $20,000 match this hour. There's still thousands of it left, and we've got about 17 minutes to go. So could you pick up the phone and call 888-291-8000. The people that you talk to are in the building here with us, or I guess they can be, some of them are, like with Joe, they can be remote, but they are our coworkers. They're either remote or they're here in the building with us, and they're happy to talk with you. They love sharing the stories. One of the best things that happens around here at Catholic Answers is after the pledge drives, when people meet in the hall to talk about the people that they talk to. It's so much fun around here. Take your time. Tell them your story, or tell them you're in a rush, you got to get it done quick, and you just want to make your pledge and go. Whatever is your preference, 888-291-8000. What you can't, please don't think that your pledge is going to be too small. They do want to take the time with you. Joe took 25 minutes to take a $0 pledge earlier today, so just think about that.
I'm not the model.
Yeah.
I'm not the model.
Your $5 pledge is worth our time. I promise you, it is worth our time. Your $500 pledge is worth our time. Whatever amount, 888-291-8000, or safe and secure online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Either place, you go. Those go to the exact same match. Either place. I see we are 31% of the way from being fully funded for this hour. From reading our match, 31%.
Can I give a quick shout out to the parishioners in the Diocese of Boise at St. John's Cathedral?
Oh yeah, please do.
Deacon Bill called in. I think he donated, and he said he's challenging his parishioners to donate for the matching gift and to help Joe over the line. So Deacon Bill,
help Joe.
I appreciate it tremendously.
Deacon Bill, very, very nice. Thank Thank you very, very much. I want to tell you about, and I'll go back to the phones. I will, but I do want to thank a few people. Sally's in Grand Rapid, and she wanted us to know that she's just going to continue her $10 donation as long as God keeps providing for her. She's on Social Security. She's 77 years old in 6 days. Happy birthday coming up there, Sally. Let me wish you an early happy birthday. And she loves what we're doing, and we're very, very grateful, Sally. Thanks. And thanks. Keep calling. We love talking with you as well. I know, Joe, you've spoken to Sally, I believe.
I have. One of the other calls I took another time during a different fund drive, and it was a beautiful, beautiful conversation with her.
I want to get the name of this family right. If I don't get it right, call back and I'll get it right. The Dalceredo family has been cashing in on recycling bottles, and they've been saving the money they get to make a donation to Catholic Answers. And today they did $64.50. And their dad, Christopher, says he never misses an episode. That is such a nice thing. Thank you to the whole Dalceredo family. That means a lot, because you got to put some effort into that one. And they did it for us, Joe. That's very, very nice.
Beautiful. I love those really unconventional gifts. I'm sure you remember the time he was a farmer, donated like a plot of land for Catholic Answers. I mean, it was just, that's great. Someone
we had a farmer call one time and give cotton. That's
what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah,
it was,
and another called and gave
crops.
wheat. And we didn't even know how to take a donation of wheat, but turns out you can. And we did. Thanks so much to everybody who has called. We've got 12 of our colleagues on the line. 7 of them are waiting for your call right now. I'm going to make Joe do his job. Would you help us do our job by picking up the phone and calling right now? Let's fill up the lines right now. Just take 7 calls right now in any amount to fill up those lines. 888-291-8000. 888-291-8000. Let's go to Heidi in Phoenix, Arizona, who's also watching on YouTube. Heidi, we're awful glad you're here. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Well, thank you. And first of all, big shouts out to Joe. I love Shameless Potpourri, and it has helped me tremendously.
Wonderful.
Seriously, especially, well, there's a lot of episodes, but the one I'm actually even kind of calling in a reference to right now. By the way, I'm in Phoenix, but I feel right at home. Y'all, I'm from Rochester, New York. So we just had Buffalo and Syracuse, so I feel well represented there.
Yeah,
New York,
I've been
coming
very
in.
impressed.
Yeah.
I was just in Buffalo yesterday and Sunday. They did a World Youth Day event that I went and spoke at, and I was surprised to learn Buffalo at 250,000 people, second largest city in New York. It really defied my stereotypes of New York.
What's the largest?
It was beautiful. They didn't say.
I'm going to look that up.
You probably saw some of my family members there. My sister-in-law is actually the executive director of the Archdiocese, Nancy Gugino. Sorry, Nancy, if I just threw you under the bus there.
What's up, Nancy? I'll tell you what, while you're asking your question, I'm going to look and see if Nancy has called and made her pledge yet. Now that I've got her first and last names, Heidi. Thank you.
I'm so sorry, Nancy.
Go ahead. Heidi, go ahead with your question for Joe.
Yeah, another way to double your donation is to shame family members into donating as well.
Oh, gosh. Sorry, Nancy. I'll get you back. Anyway, I am a new convert. My husband's whole family is Catholic. I was actually married at St. Stanislaus a million years ago there, but I literally was just confirmed this year.
Welcome home.
So thank you, and thank you for how much you all have helped me with that. So my big question, your episode on Do Protestants Really Worship, and the better understanding of Jesus as our high priest and the atonement, because for way too many years, I think I had the John MacArthur understanding of atonement. I'm getting it, but it's a big subject. So I would just love a little bit more on that if you're willing
I'll give
to
you a
share.
short one and point you to a very long answer that I gave.
Okay.
There's a Shameless Potpourri episode called How Does the Cross Work Exactly? Something like that. And it looks at different models of the atonement, and looks particularly, it actually addresses John MacArthur head on. And I quote him and explain why his vision of the cross doesn't work with the biblical evidence. So that would be, again, a good longer form, but let me give you a very short answer right here. A priest is one who offers sacrifice. Definitionally, that's what a priest is. And within Judaism, you had priests, and then you had one high priest. So originally this was Aaron and his 2 sons. And, Aaron was the high priest. The 2 sons assisted him as priests. Well, our high priest now is Jesus. He offers the perfect sacrifice. He offers himself, but he doesn't offer himself as an unwilling victim. So, a lot of pagan sacrifices, you might capture somebody and then you execute them for your God. It is not like that. Jesus offers a willing sacrifice. And he describes all this in John 10. That he says the reason the Father loves him is because he willingly lays down his life for the sheep. And he has the power to lay down his life and the power to take it up again. What he's saying there is that he is both the priest and the willing victim of the sacrifice. That if you think about it like this, there is a debt created by sin. And Jesus comes in and he doesn't just satisfy that debt. He satisfies it to overflowing. That he gives God, the Father, something more precious with beautiful love and obedience than the full weight of every sin committed by every human in all of history. That Jesus has this infinitely perfect, obedient, loving act towards the Father. And that more than outweighs every sin we could ever commit in all of history. And so that's how it works for Jesus to be the high priest of the sacrifice and the victim. And so it matters that he's willingly laying down his life, because it's that act of humility and obedience and total love for us that is so pleasing to God. So then the question is, how does our baptismal priesthood work with that? So all of us by baptism share in some sense in the priesthood of Christ, that we can now join our sufferings to that of Jesus. Just as he's willing to lay down his own life and give himself up completely for us, we can give of ourselves in some small way for our neighbors, for our loved ones, for those who haven't been converted. And so we join in just as the priest would join in the sacrifice of the high priest. And so that's the model in a nutshell. As I said, that's the short version. If you want the long version, you might have to check out the episode.
I'm going to encourage you to do that, because I got to go back to asking people if they will support us, because we're still about $5,000, almost $6,000 away from using up our match this hour, and we would really like to use it up and stay on track. Joe Heschmeyer is our guest. I am going to go back to the phones and let him answer more questions, but let me just let you know where we are. We are in the first day of our pledge drive. We have $220,000 to raise to be fully funded. In order to do that, we have these hourly matches that help us kind of gauge if we're going to make it. And the match for this hour is $20,000. That means any gift given up to the $20,000 match limit is matched dollar for dollar. So Vince just gave $1,000. Vince, thank you so much for your generous support. Well, that became $2,000. Amalia just gave $2,000. That became $4,000. She said she listens to Catholic Answers Live every day in Miami on the Sirius satellite radio as she leaves work. We're glad we get to accompany you. Thanks for spending the time with us, Amalia, and thank you for your support. That's $3,000 in gifts that was doubled and became $6,000. We've got $6,000 left to use up this hour. Maybe you could come in at the $10 a month level, become a member of Society 315. You get all kinds of bonus content, just like we got today. And those of us who are members of Society 315, we got it in our email today, a update on Joe's home studio with funny photos. And Joe, at least I found them funny. And Joe, especially your wardrobe cracks me up. But I
was working.
but not just funny stuff. Also, lots of great interviews and talks, and it's a great opportunity. Come in at the $10 a month level. It's going to be tripled right now. And you'll get the T-shirt, and you'll get the car magnet, and you'll get the 20% off at the shop, and all that stuff that comes week after week because Michelle, who runs Society 315, does such a good job. How do you do that? You pick up the phone right now and call. We've got 11 lines open. That's wild. 11 lines open. They really want to talk with you. Can you do that $10 a month level? Can you help us use up this match? 888-291-8000. Maybe you could come in at a $20 level. Also tripled right now because of 2 matches. In addition to being a member of Society 315, you will also receive free of charge Joe's book, The Eucharist is Really Jesus, and the second edition, the new revised edition of Trent's book, Persuasive Pro-Life. We'd love to send you that stuff. But look at that. The lines remain open. 11 lines open right now. Could you pick up the phone and call? We need your help to finish this hour strong and stay on track. 888-291-8000. It doesn't cost a lot to produce this program, to produce Joe's podcast, Shameless Popery, and Trent's podcast, and Carlo's podcast, and Jimmy's podcast, and do all the print stuff that we do and be on all the social media. But it does cost something, and we need your support right now. Ooh, those lines are stubbornly not full. There's 11 lines open. Will somebody pick up the phone and call 888-291-8000? If you can come in at the $45 a month level, again, tripled right now because we still have lots of match money left. But we're going to send you, in addition to all that I just mentioned, 5 copies of Why We're Pro-Life, our pro-life booklet, and you're going to get a free opportunity to take Tim's course, Defending the Saints, at the Catholic Answers School of Apologetics online. That's free. Defending the Saints. 888-291-8000 is the number, 888-291-8000, and we are in need of your calls right now. CatholicAnswersRadio.com is where you can go safe and secure online to make your pledge. Catholic Answers depends entirely on you in order to continue to do what we do. You're not. We try to be friends with those who give to us, but what we definitely are is sharers in the mission. You are part of the mission. You are part of the team when you give, and you really are. We're a small apostolate. Again, 130 people have given today. So that means every call, right? We could do 130 calls in the next 10 minutes if we needed to, and we need your call right now.
It would be hard to answer them that quickly, but yes, let's try it.
It's possible.
130 people call right now, and let's see if we can do it.
888-291-8000. Please pick up that phone and call. If you are especially blessed and you could make a $1,000 gift right now, this would be the time to do it because we are coming up a bit short. We're $6,000 away. Joe, I'm going to make you answer one more question before we go.
All right, let's do it.
And give me a little time at the end, if you would. Let's go to Tyler in Kansas City, Missouri, right near you, Joe, watching on YouTube. Tyler, try to be quick with your question, and we'll do our best to get you an answer.
Great. I'll be very quick. Really simple. I was wondering, why is it that it took, relatively speaking, so long after Jesus' death to write the Gospels? Because I just feel like if I were in the disciples'
I'm going to have to leave it there. We lost the last part. Sorry, Tyler, but we got the question. Why did it take so long to write the Gospels?
Because they were originally proclaiming it orally. And I think very effectively proclaiming it orally. So if you think about Pentecost, Peter gets out and preaches, and 3,000 people convert. Now, Peter could have just written a letter and left it there for anybody to read, but that wouldn't have been nearly as effective of seeing the actual Spirit-filled disciples proclaiming what Jesus has done in their life. And so the first couple decades, we'll say, first 15 years at least, they're really pushing orally the proclamation of the gospel. And maybe 6 of the 12 apostles never write anything at all because their mission is to build up the church. So they're doing things like oral proclamation of the gospel. They're doing the administrative stuff of actually building up the structure of the church and helping, organize these communities and everything else. And so there's not a tremendous need for writing because they're right there. And as the church gets bigger and as their own lives start to come to a close, there's a great need to write all of these things down. So you're not leaving everything to memory. And so that's why you have this move led by the Holy Spirit to write down this gospel that they had been proclaiming, and so we can have it in written form as well. But it begins not with the text. It begins with the church. It begins with the oral proclamation of the gospel. And then what we get in Scripture is sort of a codification or a canonization of things that had already been proclaimed.
Tyler, thank you for being quick with your question and leaving me time just as we're heading out to let people know we're going to stay answering the phones as long as you'll call, but there are tons of lines open right now. We really could use your help to close that $6,000 gap to finish this hour. 888-291-8000 is the number to call. 10 lines open now. No, just 9 lines open now. 888-291-8000. But let's fill up those 9 lines. You can also go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com or just text the word Catholic to 24365. 4 times a year. We come to you, and just for 3 days, and we don't even use full hours. We just use part of each hour to ask you for your support. But in order to be fully funded, we need your response. And now would be a perfect time. All of a sudden, 11 lines open. 888-291-8000. Joe Heschmeyer, it's going to be a squeaker. Can we do $6,000 in the last 6 minutes here before the top of the hour?
God willing, and 11 people call in, I'd say so.
Pick up that phone and help us out, 888-291-8000. But we'll let you know tomorrow, right when we come on the air, if we were able to make that match. If you're listening overnight, you can always go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Maybe you're listening later. Maybe you listen later in the week. The pledge drive continues through the weekend, so you can always make your pledge at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. But right now, we've got a lot of lines open, and our colleagues would love to talk with you. Pick up that phone and call 888-291-8000. We'll be back tomorrow. Do it again on Catholic Answers Live.